Hello, everyone. My name is Shruti Chaturvedi, and I am one of the GSoC students this year who's working alongside a team of some really amazing mentors in building the Cloud Events plugin for Jenkins, which is aiming at enhancing interoperability between Jenkins and other CI/CD tools. So before I dive into the demonstration of the plugin itself, let's talk a bit about interoperability, the need for it, and what it can look like between different systems. As workloads become more and more complex, the need to chain together multiple services has increased. And this has also increased the need for these services to be able to communicate with each other to exchange data and therefore take informed decisions. So this is what interoperability means. It is creating a way for services and systems to communicate with each other. Now, there really isn't one single way to achieve interoperability. Let's think of a real-world example of a bunch of traders wanting to do business with each other. But the catch is each of the traders speaks and understands a different language, and they must understand each other's language in order to do business with themselves or with each other. Now, Trader A hired a translator to do business with Trader B, so all communications between these traders are carried out pretty well by this translator. However, there's no guarantee that this translator will help Trader A also communicate and do business with other traders besides Trader B in the market. So this type of interoperability or way to communicate is called direct interoperability because the systems involved need to create a specific solution to communicate or talk with each other, which may or may not be used across other services. So it is a direct coupling created between the two services wanting to communicate. Client plugins, adapters, agents. So these are some examples of direct interoperability in the technical world. Then enters cloud events, a way to achieve indirect interoperability in the tech world. So think of it if the traders had a common language or a common business language, which each trader in the market has to know to communicate and do business. So even if they use different language, they have to know and understand this common business language so that they can do business. This way, the need to develop explicit ways to talk with each other is eliminated because even if the traders are speaking different language, they all understand this common language which is needed. So Cloud Events helps achieve exactly that and in event-driven systems. It defines a standard specification which all the systems involved can understand, and therefore using Cloud Events removes the need or removes the overhead of developing adapters, additional plugins for services that we might want to talk with. So looking at the Cloud Events plugin for Jenkins, the Cloud Events plugin for Jenkins, basically you can think of it as allowing Jenkins to enter this market of tools where each tool speaks different language, and using Cloud Events here is going to standardize that common that language. So all of the tools involved are speaking and understanding the same language of Cloud Events. So the Cloud Events plugin for Jenkins allows Jenkins to be configured as a source and a sink for Cloud Events for other services, which will facilitate communication with these tools super easy and also help build complex workflows. And this plugin can be configured, as I said, as a source or a sink depending on a user's needs. So in a way, we are saying that Jenkins can be configured or Jenkins can speak and understand this language of Cloud Events. So we are standardizing the way they communicate. We are eliminating the need to build complex pipelines, and we are allowing integration with other tools in a super easy manner and also pretty agnostic manner. All right, so with that, let's move on to the demonstration. So as I said earlier, this plugin allows users to configure Jenkins as a source and a sink. And in this demo, we will be looking at Jenkins as a source, and we will be configuring a sink that Jenkins will send the events to. So here we are looking at AWS EKS, Kubernetes running on AWS, and we have a Jenkins service running inside. And we also have another service called a GSoC service, which is a Knative serving service developed by Scott Nichols. And what this service is going to do is help us visualize all of the events coming in. So we have to configure the GSoC as a sink, and all of the events coming inside of the GSoC will be presented here. So all of the events metadata will be present inside events attribute, and all of the events payload or events data will be present inside of the data column. So we will take a look at how we can configure a particular sink or a socket as a sink inside Jenkins. So let's go back to the Jenkins service that I have running here. So as I said, this is running on a Kubernetes cluster. Going back to the plugins, we already have the Cloud Events plugin installed. And as it says, this plugin allows Jenkins to be configured as a source and a sink. Amazing. So also, let's take a look at global configuration. And this is where we'll be configuring all of the information necessary for Jenkins to send events to a sink or configure Cloud Events plugin Jenkins as a source. So I already have the sink URL added here. This is the same URL for the socket service, and here's the sink type. So for now, there's only an HTTP sink that's supported. Now these are the kind of events you want Jenkins as a source to send over to the configured sink. So job created, updated, and so events will be sent as and when they're triggered inside Jenkins to a particular sync with all of the events metadata and all of the events data. So any event that will be sent is a cloud event compliant event. Saving this information and taking a look at the jobs we have configured and the jobs we will be triggering. So we'll start with job 2 event, and let's look at the job 2. So here's the description. It's a test job. This job is parameterized. This job also has SCM configured. So we'll also take a look at what happens when we are triggering or updating SCM and that triggers a job inside Jenkins. So as I said, we're pulling the SCM. We also have another project that will be triggered as soon as this job is built. So we'll be able to take a look at all of those events for test 2 and also the test job that gets triggered inside of the socket service. Saving this information. Let's see if we see something interesting. And we did. On the right, you see the first event that we got was a job updated event. And this is the source was job test 2. So this is a job, and the name of the job was test 2. And here's a UUID alongside event data. So we have the user ID and the username. So this is I have assigned as myself, and more information about the event itself, right? So the information that we are seeing here, the attributes are the data. So this is all cloud events information. So the cloud events attribute helps us, or the ID source type helps a sink figure out if this is something that they want to work with or not. So as I said, this is a standard kind of a language. So whenever a sink is receiving any event which has these particular event metadata configured, it knows exactly what it means, and then it can filter out whether this is something that the sink wants to act on or not. So the source or the type of the event is going to give information about that particular event that's being emitted from a source, and the data is more information about that particular event. So it's in giving information which is relevant to the kind of event that was updated. So this is going to look different for all of the events. Let's trigger the job and take a look at what happens when a job gets started, right? Okay, so let's build with parameters. All of the events which are emitted here, as you can see, they're emitted in a sequence. So as they happen, they're going to be emitted in a sequence. So the first event that happened was queue entered waiting. And here is the event data, which is represented for whenever an event entered the queue. So we also have the type or the source. It was a still job test 2, which triggered the event, and we have more information, for example, the queue ID or the duration that it was in the queue. The next type of event that got triggered was a job started event or a job completed event. So here, what happened was when a job was started, we had more information about that particular kind of build, right? So we had the number of the build, we had the timestamp when that build was started. Moving on, again, it's happening in a sequence. So first it was started, then it got completed, and then, as I said, since this had another job configured that it's going to build, or like test 2 is going to build as soon as test 2 got completed, is a test kind of job or the test job. Going back to the dashboard, let's also take a look at the test job here. So this is a test job which got triggered, and here's some more information about the entered or the test job being in the queue or being in the queue entered waiting stage. And as soon as the test started building, here's information about the test job. So we have the display name, we have the URL. We don't have an SCM state here because this is not configured with an SCM. Now let's take a look at what happens when a job is actually triggered from an SCM and see what it's going to look like when it's an external system pushing the job. Some of the changes. So it's pulling the SCM, and let's keep patience for a second, and we'll take a look at the test 2 job. So that's what we are hoping, the test 2 first entering the queue, and then all the sequence happening, and then test 2 triggering another kind of job, which was the test job. So we should take a look at all of those events happening here. Let's switch over to Jenkins. Okay, and let's wait for a second. Let's hope that it does happen fast if I committed it right. Okay, so this is taking a second. You know, a lot of the times, something that we want to make sure is, okay, so as you can see, something got entered in the queue. Sometimes we do want to make sure that our SCM is also configured right, and our the sync information that we are entering, it's an HTTP sync. So we want to make sure that we are only giving that kind of information, which is relevant here. So as you can see, the test 2 entered waiting. It had left, and then it had started, and it has information about moving on here. It's going to have information about the particular kind of SCM information, so the branch or the commit ID. Amazing. So as soon as the job test 2 was completed, we also had the test job started. So this is what going to look like, all in a sequence with event information personalized to that particular kind of event that's emitted. So obviously the event metadata key values are going to remain the same, but the information about the values itself, they're going to be changing, and that's also going to contain the information which is relevant to that particular event. So any sync which is receiving this event will be able to filter event based on the event metadata. And so this was Jenkins as a source, and this is what we want to do for Jenkins as a sync, is a service similar to Sockeye, where we are giving users the ability to add filters to the events which are coming in, and then based on those filters, trigger specific actions. So if a job is coming in, or an event is being triggered from inside of Tecton, and we mentioned that we only want to listen to a type where a pipeline was updated inside of Tecton. So this is what we want to do for Jenkins as a sync. So this was phase 1, and that's our plan for phase 2. Thank you so much for your time, and we are still looking for building this out and also testing and iterating on Jenkins as a source and as a sync. So if this is something you're interested in, is interoperability between different systems and standardizing the way systems communicate, is something that you're interested in. We are looking for feedback on both Jenkins as a source and also Jenkins as a sync. So please provide us your opinions and your feedback. Again, thank you so much. Hope this was interesting.